Hi, I'm Sally Bolter from Impact Assets, and I'm here with Julie Smith Bartoloni from the Boston Foundation. First, we want to thank FAOG and Laura for asking us to be part of this panel. We're going to start with introductions of the two of us, and then we're going to have a conversation about our partnership. So first, Impact Assets is an impact donor advised fund. We were started by impact investors for impact investors. Our niche in the donor advised fund space is that all of our investment options while our donors are waiting to grant money out are impact investment options. Further, we have some private debt and equity funds that we diligence and offer our clients. And then one of the things that a lot of people enjoy about impact assets is the ability to make what we call custom investments. So our donors can bring one-off investments to us and recommend them, and we'll make them through the donor advised fund. At this time, I'm going to introduce Julie, and she can tell you a little bit about Boston Foundation.
Thanks, Sally, and hi, everybody. We're happy to be there virtually today. I'm Julie Smith Bartoloni, Associate Vice President in the Philanthropy Group at the Boston Foundation. So with nearly $1.7 billion in charitable assets under management across around 1,000 or more funds, the Boston Foundation is one of the oldest and largest community foundations in the United States. We call ourselves a grant maker, a partner to donors, and a civic leader in and for Greater Boston. We have an extensive community of donors that give with, to, and through the Boston Foundation, or TBF, in a number of ways. They support our annual Civic Leadership Fund, co-invest with initiatives that we host. They leave philanthropic legacies to our endowment for Boston, and they utilize donor advised funds, or DAFs. DAFs really are key to our foundation's business model, both for their devoted constituencies and because fees on DAFs attribute for roughly 1/3 of our operating budget. Monies into new and existing DAFs represent nearly 99% of the more than $200 million entrusted to TBF this past fiscal year. And currently TBF has over 700 DAFs ranging in size from under $50,000 to over $100 million. And our fund advisors often consider them to be private foundation alternatives. While the philanthropy team that I'm a part of subscribes to the model of owning the whole in our work with donors, the vertical that I oversee is focused primarily on donor relations and the services we provide to these donor advised fund holders. I lead the team whose work centers around cultivation and stewardship of TBF's fund advisors. And as liaisons to the breadth and depth of expertise at the foundation, our relationship managers offer philanthropic advising for our donors' current giving and help them to consider the future of their funds. But as more attention turns to impact investing in all of its forms, our relationship managers really need to be able to focus attention and fluency on building our donors' interest and capacity in this evolving area. And that's where you, Sally, and the team at Impact Assets have really become valued partners for our ongoing efforts.
Thank you, Julie. And I have to say, your intro was much better than we're both a little bit nervous about doing this recording, so I just thought I would put it out there and laugh about it. What we wanted to talk about first was Julie's donors and what brought her to start thinking about impact investing and what brought her to start looking for a partner.
So TBF has been involved for a long time in various forms of impact investing, ranging from program-related investments, PRIs, with below market returns, recoverable grants, and other vehicles that seek a range of return and social benefit outcomes. And I'd say that while a couple of donors were involved in forms of impact investing for the past dozen years or more, it's really the last 5 or 6 years that we've seen a real explosion of interest from our donors in learning about and participating in impact investing. Although it's really become clear to me that impact investing means different things to different people, and that's probably worth unpacking too. But so for us to get a feel for where our donor community's interest and knowledge lay, we held several in-person programs back when we used to be in person with DAF advisors and other donors to discuss this emerging field, learn together with experts, and share examples with each other about ways that some of the folks had elected to explore it through recoverable grants, revolving loan funds, social impact bonds, among other approaches. Then we surveyed our DAF advisors and got a fairly good response from the outreach. And the responses really indicated a strong and growing interest in accessing and learning about a variety of impact investing alternatives, as well as a desire from the donors for TBF to play a more active role in their pursuit. So with this growing interest and the continued evolution of the environment, we at TBF realized that we needed to provide improved opportunities for our donors to both learn about and invest in a broader variety of impact investment alternatives. And we were pretty sure that we would probably need some additional capacity to be able to do it well. So we put together an internal team, and that included staff from our philanthropy, finance, and program departments. And our group was actually facilitated by Ellen Remmer, who's a senior partner at the Philanthropic Initiative, with which TBF merged about 10 years ago. And she's also a member of the TBF donor community. So Ellen led this group discussion to work together to explore alternatives that we could offer to our DAFs. And from that process, we identified a list of 4 items that we wanted to be able to offer our donor community. The first was a diversified impact pool within the investment options that we offer to our DAF advisors. The second was an impact investment platform for the DAF holders. The third was the ability to offer custom transactions for DAF holders. And fourth was the ability to source and facilitate co-investment opportunities. So while we decided to take a more homegrown approach to building an impact pool, it was really the other items on the list for which we went shopping for a partner. And so Sally and I and our organizations have been talking for at least the last, 2 years, I think, to explore a partnership model for our organizations. And we made the collective decision to do so in, I think it was the fall of last year, I think September.
What were some of the challenges that you all were facing that really drove you to find a partner, and what you wanted to outsource specifically?
Yeah. Well, it had become somewhat commonplace over the last years for our DAF advisors to identify a potential impact opportunity on their own and then come to TBF asking if we could enable them to participate in it with their DAF. And as we didn't really have our own strategy or any predefined process for this, we just tended to address these requests each as a one-off situation. But that approach became pretty time consuming, and pretty quickly it became difficult to manage donor expectations too. So we realized the need to partner with a service provider who could help us be responsive to donor requests while also reducing the strain on our finance team of all the due diligence and fiduciary responsibility and ongoing reporting of status and outcomes to each DAF advisor. So I guess it was probably in late 2019 that we went shopping for an intermediary or intermediator to help us offer better service to the TBF community. And we talked with several, and all were really good. But it was really through a conversation with Safia Krieger-Nelson at the Marin Community Foundation, who we were introduced to actually through Ellen Remmer, that we learned about that foundation's venture impact program that they were offering in partnership with ImpactAssets. So that's when we started talking. And through the conversations that Sally and I had and our various colleagues and teams had, we realized that ImpactAssets had numerous strengths that matched our needs. Some of these are, I'm going to brag on you. So deep and long track record of expertise in the impact investing space and as a field builder. access to a library of available investment opportunities that we could rebrand and white label as TBF. The ability to act as the fiduciary for TBF through ImpactAssets recoverable grant model, the opportunity to submit TBF or advisor identified deals on which ImpactAssets could perform due diligence for a fee, as well as custom impact portfolio consultation if desired by donors. ImpactAssets also offered a simplified approach to annual transaction fees and the opportunity to reduce that cost through the fees that our donors would pay in doing deals. And they also provided us with marketing support and training for our front-facing and internal staff around the field of impact investing, and suggesting ways that we could get better at conversing with donors around those options. And interestingly, some people asked us when we were picking ImpactAssets whether we considered you a competitor in the DAF space, but we really didn't, and we still don't. I mean, I know you're focused on I know you offer DAFs, but I really think, and as we've talked about, you're really focused on activating more dollars for impact investing, not on really growing philanthropy as a whole. And you can do giving transactions with a DAF, and we utilize a DAF with you, but you're not specifically place-based, and you're not really focused on offering philanthropic advising and support, if I'm understanding that correctly. So we didn't really see it as a competition. And most importantly, I think particularly at the time when we were shopping, ImpactAssets offered our finance team an ease of use while also enabling our philanthropy team to maintain and even strengthen relationships with our donors. So Sally, I mean, obviously we got a lot of our ideas and probably copied and stole a little bit from Marin Community Foundation and their Venture Impact program. But would you say that the reason that Safia and Marin Community Foundation, or Safia, came to partner with ImpactAssets, do you think those reasons are pretty much the same as what drove the Boston Foundation? And could you talk a little bit about how their Venture Impact program differs from what you offer to us?
Sure. Yeah. So the beautiful thing about Safia, from my perspective, is she and I were colleagues before she went to Marin. So she knows ImpactAssets really well, and she knows impact investing really well. Like Boston Foundation, they're very focused on philanthropy. That is what their main reason for being in the world. And they wanted a partner who could take the impact investing piece off their plates. Like, they want to be able to offer that for clients, but it's not something, they didn't want to build that expertise in-house. So they wanted to come to us so that they could have the full suite of the investment products. And they, specifically Safia, works very hard with the philanthropic advisors, making sure that they know what's available to them, what are all the private debt and equity funds that are available. And for her and for Marin, having that list of funds that they know have been diligenced by us is critical. The other piece, like you, is that they didn't want to have these investments on their balance sheet. So they make a grant to ImpactAssets, and then we make the investment. And then when the investment is complete, it goes back to Marin. And they definitely don't consider us as competitors, nor do we, because they've had people come to them to say, like, what we really want to do is impact investing. We're not interested in philanthropy or the Marin area. And she said, really where you need to be is impact assets. And actually, I had one of her clients come to me and say, I want to open a DAF with you all because I want to make this investment. And I was like, you really should do it with us. You have a DAF with Marin, do it through Marin. So we work very closely with both Julie and with Safia to make sure that we're all staying in our lane. And I have to say that Impact Assets was created out of the Calvert Foundation. And if any of you knew Shari Berenbach, she was all about growing the impact investing space. And that is very much in our DNA. Like competition is not, that's not in our DNA. We're really about making more dollars flow for impact investing.
Thanks. Sally, are there other, is there sort of, what is the full suite of services that Impact Assets offers beyond what we've already discussed that you're offering to these two community foundations?
Sure. So one of the bigger things that we offer for clients over a certain level is a custom portfolio. So we'll work with the philanthropic advisor and the donor to say, like, okay, what are your impact themes? And what is your risk profile? And then we can build a full impact portfolio that is fully diversified from cash to private equity, that is completely aligned with that person's impact themes. That's a big thing. And we like to say we take people on an impact journey where we work with them on strategy through implementation and then assessment, right? Because things happen, elections happen, wildfires happen. And so people's priorities change. So we like to meet with people on a regular basis and evaluate and change those portfolios. Another service that we can offer is sourcing. So if people are interested in a specific theme and want us to find deals for them that are not currently on our approved list, we can help with that. And we can also conduct full due diligence. Normally when we do a custom investment for a client, we do a compliance check mostly, but we can do a full due diligence for clients who are interested in that. The next thing that we wanted to talk about today was about how we built our program together. And so for that, I'm going to turn to Julie, and she's going to talk a little bit about kind of the nuts and bolts of how we built this and what are the different pieces that she put in place to unroll this for her donors.
Yeah, I mean, we basically did decide to develop a website presence for what we called our Invest with Impact program. And our external facing website and our internal facing website through our donor portal highlight both the partnership with Impact Assets and what we're able to do for donors, as well as the impact pool. The version that's accessible through our online donor portal showcases a variety of investment opportunities in Greater Boston that we know about, that we've either maybe that the Boston Foundation have also invested in, as well as thematic charitable funds and debt and equity impact funds that Impact Assets curates, but that they've again enabled us to co-brand with the Boston Foundation logo on it, so that it shows that we have viewed them and really encourage people to consider investing in them. So that, that's really basically building our program was just talking about what we were able to do and finding ways to market that to our donors, both through materials and through conversations. So the team at Impact Assets, again, helped us adapt and personalize their fact sheets, highlighting direct impact investment options in partnership with Impact Assets. And we talk a lot about being in partnership with. Impact Assets offered us several training sessions with our philanthropy group team members to help everyone get a comfort level with talking about what was offered, what we could do, things to share with donors to help to build their comfort level, talking about fees a bit so that we understood how to talk about that. And then we just inundated our donor community with e-blasts and other correspondence. Again, all of this was during the pandemic, so we didn't really have any in-person opportunities to do anything, but we shared a lot around both the Invest with Impact program and our impact pool. When we introduced the impact pool, we invited, with an e-blast, we invited donors to be pioneering impact investors by joining us in this innovative investment option. And that really did seem to get people's attention. And I think we got a lot of questions. People didn't immediately say, move my balance, but we got a lot of emails and calls asking about the impact pool and for more information. And as you know, it's grown significantly. We're now developing a regular impact investing corner in our monthly Donor Insider e-newsletter to try to highlight investment opportunities and ways that donors might consider testing the water in this emerging field. And in addition, members of my team have offered several different presentations to our Professional Advisors Committee and Professional Advisors Network to talk about this partnership, to talk about our ability to source and implement impact investments, really as a crucial selling point for their clients as well. Anything I'm missing?
No, I think I would just want to add one of the things we want to talk about today is kind of lessons learned. And as Julie mentioned, we did some training sessions directly with the philanthropic advisors, and I think those were helpful for the advisors, but they were also helpful for ImpactAssets as we were learning what philanthropic advisors need. I think for both Sophia at Marin and for Boston Foundation, there's a lot of interest on the part of donors, but actually getting people to pull the trigger can sometimes be difficult. And so one of the things that we're finding through these trainings and through these conversations is that it's key to make things as easy as possible for the philanthropic advisor. So through the training, we tried to provide, talking points and cheat sheets and different ways to make it easy for the philanthropic advisor to understand what the offerings are. So that's important on that side. And also it has to be easy for the donor to understand how to get it done. And, as Julie was mentioning before, when donors have brought this kind of thing to her team before, it's hard to manage the expectation of the donor, because oftentimes when people are doing private equity investments, early stage social enterprise, there's an expectation in that community that you can turn around those investments on a dime. And it takes time to vet them just for compliance, even if you're not doing a full due diligence, just to vet the thing for compliance. So getting all of that stuff so that it's easy as possible for the donor and the communication is as clear as possible has been a key lesson learned for us in working with Marin and Boston. Julie, what are some other lessons learned that you think we should share?
I mean, I guess it's sort of a combination of lessons learned and a little bit of, you mentioned barriers. I do have to, well, I guess one lesson learned is that the term impact investing, as I mentioned before, still remains somewhat elusive and intimidating to both donors and staff even alike. So we do need to continue to educate our internal team so that they can feel comfortable and confident speaking with donors about the options that exist for their philanthropy in this space. And the trainings have helped, but it's a constant learning curve. I honestly, I have been a bit surprised by the lack of uptake by our donor community in this space since we entered into this partnership, because we have done all this outreach and engagement that we've mentioned. We've received a lot of questions and positive feedback from donors. We've even received quite a number of expressions of interest, but only a few who've been willing to pull the trigger, if you will, with entering into an investment. And internally, I think we're still struggling about when to outsource, if you will, to impact assets, and when to handle things in-house, because we were so used to doing it ourselves. And particularly since we're not being inundated with requests, when these individual requests come in, it's just sort of normal that our finance team says, well, we can just handle this one. And we kind of have to remember to reach out to impact assets. And and then there can be a bit of a fee sensitivity sometimes. And it's not particular to impact assets. It's, we already know that electing to have a donor advised fund hosted at a community foundation means that the support fees are going to be higher, most likely, than the administrative fees charged by commercial providers like Fidelity and Vanguard and the like. Donors make the choice to come to a community foundation for a number of reasons, because they like what it says about them as a philanthropist. They want to support the work of the community foundation, but they can still sometimes be loath to pay additional fees, particularly on a per grant basis, even though they understand why the cost is necessary. It's almost like a knee-jerk reaction, like, oh, I don't want to pay more fees. So that I think that's sometimes a little bit of a barrier, and it's a barrier to us too. Internally, we're like, well, we don't want to charge them. We'll just do it ourselves, which of course is a different type of charge. Really, the primary lesson that I've learned is that even though we haven't had a lot of takers, the hunger for impact investing is definitely there. To echo Sally, we really need to continue to make this as easy as possible to offer ways for our donor community to try it on for size. It's not new territory for impact assets, but it's new territory for the rest of us. And we're still figuring out what makes it easy. And it sounds a little bit like you still are too. I was sort of happy to hear, and so we're figuring out, what sort of engagement and educational approaches are going to be needed to help our donor community get comfortable and try it on.
Okay, great. Julie, unless you have anything else, I think we will sign off.
All right. Well, we look forward to hearing your questions. Thank you so much, Sally.
Thank you.